That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. I am your host, Sid Part 2, and we've got a very, very big week. And I've got something to do right after the show tonight, so I'm not going to wait too long to get started. I will say, while I'm waiting to see if I actually did it right this time, I think all my settings are good if we'll have good audio real quick. So let's check that out. And it's always so all my settings are good if we'll have good audio real quick. I think we're good. Things seem okay, and it's really hard to understand yourself when you're listening to yourself. It's a nightmare. Anyway, things are good. I believe people will let me know if there's no sound. So let's see. I got 3 people watching. One of you, any of you, just let me know you can hear me real quick. This has been a consistent problem with the start of the stream, so before I do anything, I want to get confirmation from the chat that things are going okay. So I'm just going to sit here. Hey, thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name. I'll butcher it. Okay. So anyway, we got a lot to talk about this week, but before I get into that, I want to just say, if you've subscribed recently, then you will have noticed that I've been doing a lot of daily trade reviews have been posted. That's coming to an end very shortly. For the last 2.5 months, give or take, maybe even 3, I've been doing daily trade review postings. Those are just backlogs from episodes of comic reviews that I'm uploading as its own series now, so you can find the trade review on its own, just in case someone's searching for that in particular and doesn't want to click like an hour video, they click a 20-minute video, something like that. Those are coming to an end as I'm slowly catching up to myself, so those got about, I think, like another week or so. Once that's over, trade reviews that are done on Wednesday night will be posted Friday afternoon. So just look forward to that. Anyway, let's talk about what we're talking about this week. But turning this stack of comics over and starting to look through the books. Okay. So the first thing we're going to be discussing is Invader Zim, number 24. Then we'll go to Aquaman, number 29. Batwoman, number 8. Sherlock, Frankenstein, and the Legion of Evil from the World of Black Hammer, number 1. Super Sons, number 9. Trinity, number 14. Venom, number 156. Can't believe I've been reading that since issue 1. Memories. Batman, number 33. And to close it off this week will be Bombshells United, number 4. And then for a trade this week, by request, we're talking about Thor, God of Thunder, Volume 1. The God Butcher. Okay. So, let's start the week off nice and simple with Invader Zim, number 24. Like I said, a lot of books to get through, so I'm just going to go. Alright. So, Invader Zim, again, this is just a fun book. There's a lot of really silly jokes in this. Like, Zim's on this planet that's like a huge black market all across the planet. And he's trying to find virus, which is continuing from the last story arc. And I love how awkward the humor is here. It really just gets stuff. It understands how to write Invader Zim in a really fun way. There's this one line I just love where he's impersonating a janitor. And he's like, "Janitor coming through? Just a humble janitor, here to janet this alley here. Janet. Oh, and by the way, do any of you know where I could find a bean named Virus?" So it's silly art. Like Zim and Girl look like a kid. hiding in a big coat. Did anyone actually try that as children? I have a big coat. My dad had big coats, and I never had a friend that was willing to like walk with me on their shoulders or anything like that. Could do that as an adult. That'd be pretty freaking funny. I think I know what my Halloween costume's gonna be. I have to call Bobby. Oh man. Anyway, so the whole issue, just Zim's trying to track this guy down, and like everyone he asks about virus is like, oh god, no, and they just start like shooting at each other and all this craziness. It's Invader Zim. It's so Invader Zim. It's got just the same style of humor, just the same kookiness and kind of just grotesque look to it. Like, the main villain of this book is this big blob amiibo guy on this page here, and he looks kind of gross, kind of like something you'd see in Invader Zim. It's neat to see more aliens. I think the only other aliens that we saw in the show were like in the first episode, and then at one point when he goes to Mars and he sees like the Martian hologram. I don't think there were any other actual aliens shown in the series. I could be wrong about that. I could just be not remembering it, but somewhat confident in saying that. So it's just neat to see like other alien species in the style of Invader Zim's art. Anyway, Zim gets taken away, and the villain virus that's been here and behind everything so far reveals himself, and he looks like, I'm not sure what he's supposed to be, unless it's alternate timeline Dib. You remember that with the piggies? But he doesn't look like that at all. Like, alternate timeline Dib just got, like, you know, huge and robotic and scary. This looks very different. Though it does have the little claw arm, so it could be that. I don't know. In any case, definitely interested to keep reading. It's a lot of fun. I wanted an adventure where Dib's actually in it. He's not been in a single issue, like, for more than just a cameo. Since I've been reading this, so it'd be nice to see some actual Dib. Let's go ahead and go on to Aquaman, number 29. Still only reading this for Stephen Sejic's art. The story's just kind of there, kind of okay. Not a lot, like, actually happens this issue, but a lot of things get set up to happen. This feels like the big payoff right before, you know, the climax of the story. So Aquaman talks with Dolphin, and she's like convincing him that even if he's not going to become King of Atlantis again, he needs to save Atlantis from King Wrath. Okay, cool. The couple touring or going through the Forbidden Route to the Sanctuary or whatever it is, they like managed to get there. It's kind of a goofy, silly situation. Let's see here, what else happens? Mira finds a way past the Crown of Thorns, which is keeping everybody out of Atlantis. She manages to get a way in. And Crush, the, you know, essentially mob boss of Atlantis, goes to reveal that he knows that King Arthur is actually alive to the guard that stabbed King Arthur on King Wrath's orders. And the big plot twist of the issue is I'll just read it. I like it. I come here as a true Atlantean citizen, honest and loyal, to tell His Majesty that the false King Arthur is still alive. No response from this guard. Guy says, what? Guard says, of course he is. And stabs him right through the head, in the mouth, up the brain. And he's like, and you're telling no one about it. So it looks like he had this whole plan to make sure, like, when he killed Arthur, to leave him to stab him in such a way that he wouldn't actually die. Which is, I don't know, I didn't see it coming, but whatever. Sejic's art's really cool. Like, there's this Wraith-style Atlantean ghost, haunting the tunnels of the catacombs of Atlantis, and I don't know, it's drawn really cool. Like, it could just be a white blob, but all the detail of the skeleton and the glowiness that it all has is really cool. I mean, it's interesting that Sejic's a fantasy writer, and so he kind of, like, knows what he's doing when it comes to drawing magic effects. Like, I feel like a lot of times artists don't really know what to visualize when it's like, a character shoots magic. Well, what do we put there? And so, like, Sejic, just with his various techniques of Photoshop and digital painting and all that stuff, just makes it look kind of cool. It's like got this sigil kind of look to it. It's got, energy, lightning coming off of it. It's neat. What else was Sejic's art? Like, okay, here's a good example of the magic drawing, because this could just be a beam of light, kind of like a laser blast or something that hits Mira. But instead, like, it's just got this subtle, rings around it, the way it's moving, like, it pushes water out of its way as it goes to hit her, which is really a nice touch. Like, I feel like a lot of people, when they're drawing scenes underwater, forget that there's water there besides just having the hair do this. So, like, when you see the, damn it, I lost my pencil. I lost my pencils. Are these sharpened? Good. Okay. Like, when you see the water moving out of the way, that's a really nice touch, because you got, like, this attempt, I guess you could call it, could have been to do something like this. Need a tiny circle to go at the end of that. There we go. So you could just have, a straight line across the page like that. But by adding this, like, kind of rippling cloud, this pushing away kind of thing with these swirls in the water, that just, it gives it a sense of power. That it's really pushing through the air like that, and it just makes it look more impactful, more epic. And then it's also not a laser, it's magic. So he incorporates into that some more. How would I do this? By drawing, well, it's digital, so this will not look as good on a two-dimensional plane, because he probably just drew these out flat and then flipped them in Photoshop. But I can give you circles and just kind of make it work. He probably drew these out and had them just normal, and then used three-dimensional space to kind of flip them around outside of that original shape. So that's kind of neat. That it works that way. And he drew, like, little symbols in them, and it just the like rune kind of look to it just kind of makes it look really, really complex and interesting. And it's just that attention to detail that really makes Sejic a really good artist to me. I'm a, like, my sense in art, my thing that I like about a lot of art is when there's so much detail put into it that you can just look at a page for days and days. And so, like, that level of detail, that for just one panel of this thing shooting across the the panel like that, it looks really cool, and you can see like the level of work put into it just by the act of trying to do it, poorly myself. And I really, I respect that about him. He's a very highly detail attentive artist, and that's not just the magic effect. Look at Hera's and forget his name, Tempest. Sure. Look at their scale armor, like. It's all over the place. It's not a gradient. I don't have those issues of Aquaman out anymore, but like I've seen other artists when they're doing like Aquaman or scale style armor, like I've seen this with Captain America. When they're doing that, they tend to I'm just gonna do roughly the shape of that was terrible. Let's try that again. Roughly the shape of a human body, male, I guess. So, just so you're aware, when you're drawing guys who have one leg significantly bigger than the other, the male anatomy is a V shape, roughly speaking, like so. Yep, right over other side. There we go. Right up there. Male anatomy is male torso, I should say, is a V, kind of like an inverted V, and then you got the legs to create the bottom, so it's like two V's stacked on top of each other, like so. This is a gang sign or something. Whereas female anatomy, as far as chest and bottom, is more of a figure 8. And again, I'm a bad artist when it comes to 2D, so don't take my word for it here. So that's what I was trying to go for here. But to talk about the scales, like I've seen a lot of artists for like Aquaman and Captain America that do like scale or repeated pattern style armor. Will do like basically what I'm doing now, which is to have a couple rows where it's really, really well defined, and then they start doing a bunch of rows where it's like less defined and just gets fainter and fainter, so you get kind of like a gradient shape on it until it virtually disappears like that on this little awful character I just drew. I fear that doing this is just embarrassing myself, proving what a terrible artist I am. Trust me, check out my 3D stuff. I'm a lot better there. But yeah, you see this gradient style thing, and Sejic doesn't do that. He will show you each individual scale in the armor, which is really, really neat, and it just looks good. And he'll still gradient it and shade and change the shading, but it'll be based on the lighting. It won't be based on just trying to save time. And I really, really appreciate that about his style. Constantly bubbles everywhere too. That's neat. Not sure what else I can really talk about that I haven't already. Just flipping through here, looking for different stuff to discuss. Nothing really. It's there's another good example of the scale style armor. And I mean, it's easier for Sejic to do tricks like that as opposed to using the whole gradient style of fading away scales and stuff like that, because he works almost primarily digitally. So this is a copy and paste gradient kind of shift thing, or it's a brush he creates or whatever he's got to use. And that's just, it's obviously easier to do highly detailed stuff like that if you can just do it faster and not have to worry about, drawing it all out one at a time. But it looks good. It definitely looks good. I think that'll do it for Aquaman, though. Let's go ahead and talk about Batwoman, number 8. You all know how much I love Marguerite Bennett as a writer. She is phenomenal as a writer. I would have picked this book up for the art. This is a really solid issue. Unfortunately, it's not like it's a well-written issue. I don't want to give that impression. But this is like a building the story, building the plot, moving things along issue before it's like a big sentimental moment for Batwoman at any given point. It's still well-written, but it's not like, it's the filler chapters, right? Where you gotta do the legwork to get to those big moments, and this is the legwork. The artist is treating this like this is it, and I am so excited because I want to see what the climax is gonna look like now. It's just looking really, really cool, and I'm really, really excited. This artist, Fernando, Blanco. A lot of Hispanic artists working in comics these days. I feel like half the books I'm reading are drawn by guys with very Spanish last names. So I'd be surprised if this guy was not Hispanic. Anyway. So in this issue, we're dealing more with Scarecrow, and finding out more about Kate. But, just from page 1, it looks really, really good. It's trippy as shit. I love just staring at this. Again, I was just talking about detail work. This page is pretty much the entire story. As you just look at this page, it pretty much gives you all the information you need. You have Kate Kane. She's tangled in roses. You have Scarecrow above her manipulating her. You have all these cells, these organisms moving around her. And you have dead foxes, or kind of like zombified looking foxes. Swimming about in this big soup, and they're in the ocean, surrounded by fish. The fish may be the only thing that doesn't make 100% sense yet, though that could just be in fitting with the tentacle imagery of Scarecrow. I really like that. Scarecrow's coming off as like a tentacle monster in her nightmares kind of thing. That's neat. And then just the wording here is, I promise, kill them all, Kate. I promise, you have to kill them all. I promise, have to find a way to survive. Oh, there is fish involved in this. They are in an underwater base. Yes. I live for underwater bases. If I was ever a supervillain, definitely would get an underwater base. You don't understand how awesome underwater bases are. Underwater bases are the gold standard of supervillain hideouts. Anyway, so Crane's got Kate Kane captured, and they're back at his base, provided to him by the many arms of death, who are themselves working for the Mother of War. So it's just this big, huge conspiracy thing. And so Crane is working for them, and we don't know specifically what he's doing, but we get a bunch of really good hints. Keeping in mind that the Many Arms of Death is using the Monster Men formula devised by Hugo Strange, which is like some kind of weird crossbreed with the Venom serum. The stuff Bane uses. The Many Arms of Death is selling this substance that turns people into basically kaiju just by touching it, and turns anyone who comes into contact with the kaiju's bodily fluids after it's been killed into kaiju. So it's just this really destructive force. They're selling it to basically anyone that wants it and is willing to pay. So terrorist organizations, people interested in doing, like, essentially, it's the comic book version of a mass shooting event. And these people are targeting big areas with big international impact. So, like, airports, consulates, train stations, stuff like that. Stuff to really, really get as many different nations, different groups of people affected at once. And so Crane is somehow tied up in all this, and the brief glimpse we get of his lab is we see a bunch of animals being exposed to some really infamous viruses. We got Ebola, bird flu, anthrax, and bubonic plague. That's really, really interesting. So, like, is he trying to improve on the virus even further by making it so it not only spreads the monster formula, it not only turns people into monsters, but it infects, once the monster is killed, even if the person isn't exposed directly to the blood in enough of a quantity to get turned into a monster, maybe it's spreading this super infectious disease, like bird flu. That's really interesting. Then Crane has this fucking fascinating ass conversation with this lady that represents the many arms of death, and he tells her about the story of Pyrrhus and Phalaris. It's like, so Phalaris was a king in Greece, ancient king, Sicily, sorry. And he commissioned Pyrrhus of Athens to devise a new form of execution for the island's criminals. Pyrrhus created a masterpiece, a brazen bowl, hollow with a door on the side into which prisoners could be placed. The bronze bowl was set over a blazing fire, and the intricate pipes within the bowl made the dying screams of the victim into a bull's bellowing roar. When Phalaris saw this miraculous creation, he declared that the first fiend to be committed to its entrails would be Pyrrhus himself. And Crane explains all this as to why he has a failsafe in case the many arms of death turn on him. And he's like, children turn on their parents, creations turn on their creators. And my children are many and growing, and already turning screams into masterpieces. So, like, he's aware that he's probably on the chopping block, so he's got his own, contingency plan set up here. And then we get to what Batwoman's up to, which is having friggin' trippy-ass nightmares that just look really, really cool. Oh, look at that. It's Batwoman, again, tangled up in roses, riding a skeleton horse. Man, look at that. That is just utterly fantastic. Whew. There's a lot of detail put in that horse's skull, too. I really, really like it. Man. So we just see Batwoman's hallucinations, which are obviously some of her worst fears, as she deals with this idea of, like, people that she cares about having to kill them or them being killed because of her. And then, like, a gigantic bat shows up, and she has to deal with these people trying to kill her loved ones and this giant bat monster. And she just goes and kills the bat monster. It's trippy as balls, but it's really, really cool. It's a great sequence. And then after she kills the monster, her family's like, you chose the symbol over us. And they kind of fade away into the blackness. And that's when she wakes up in the laboratory cell with this guy who she's got a history with. So they kind of talk about what the situation is, and Scarecrow tells them that, the many arms of death are honored by your presence and your sacrifice, Batwoman, as it begins to flood the chamber with some kind of gas. We don't know what's in it, but obviously it's not healthy. And Kate talks about how she spent hours exposed to the sun, and she's still wearing her costume, which means they got a really big jolt when they tried to take it off her, so they just left it on. But her costume also spent hours exposed to the sun. And Batwoman's costume is very, very high-tech, which is really neat. So it was able to absorb all that solar radiation and get some real power from it. So she's able to basically evacuate all that power at once and just send a gigantic electric shock into the room and kind of destroy a bunch of shit. Knocks her on her ass doing it, but it works. So anyway, her and this guy get out, and then they're immediately exposed to fear toxin, and they have to read Dark Knight's Metal. Now, they're immediately exposed to fear toxin and walk outside of their, cell to find this fucking nightmare scenario. And they're both hallucinating different things, which is interesting, so they have to, confer with one another about what they are seeing and decide whether or not to attack based on that. And Kate calls it some nightmare fuel hellscape wonderland. I like that. And then Scarecrow kind of, as they think they're safe and that they've got a plan, and Scarecrow comes in and says, "Don't say I didn't warn you, Batwoman, because if this is Wonderland, there is only one rule. Don't lose your head." And just look at him! That is a great image of Scarecrow in this, really trippy... I love the bleeding colors that are used in this book. Who's doing the colors here? John Rauch. I believe is doing is credited for the colors, and it's just this really neat color scheme, where it all kind of bleeds into each other. Grey Child says he looks like Arkham vs. Scarecrow. Yeah, he definitely does with the whole needle fingers thing. We were doing an episode of Geeky Gentleman on Freddy Krueger, and we talked about the movie where he's got the syringe fingers instead of the claws for that one scene. And man, that's really, really iconic imagery that they pretty much ripped off, maybe not intentionally, but certainly it's one came before the other for Scarecrow, and it looks creepy as fuck. It really works for Scarecrow in a nice way as something that he would do. So just any kind of contact with Scarecrow would be just inherently dangerous of getting worse. Anyway, good ass book. Again, the story just kind of moved things along, but did a lot of interesting setup work, and I like trippy stuff like that where you get into a character's head and nothing's really explained to you. It's just a bunch of how to put this, non sequitur. I don't want to use the word random. Non sequitur, vague, abstract moments. I really like that because it allows you to get into what they're thinking. It allows you to get into a character's subconscious. There's the best way to put it. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to Sherlock Frankenstein and the Legend of Evil. Frankenstein. It's pronounced Frankenstein. Sherlock Frankenstein and the Legion of Evil from the world of Black Hammer. So this is a spin-off book for Black Hammer, which I love quite a bit. This is the first issue, and this is the story all about how her life got turned upside down, and she'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. She'll tell you how she became the newest member of Black Hammer. Okay. Alright. No? I thought that was pretty good. Anyway, no, this is about Black Hammer's daughter, who recently showed up. Recently, a couple issues ago, showed up in the main Black Hammer book in the town that everyone's living in, and like this is the story basically of how she got there. So she was searching for her father because she just had this undying feeling that he was somewhere, that he hadn't really died, and so she went looking, and so she decided the best place to start would be to look for the old villains. And so this is that story where she's trying to hunt down the biggest bad of them all, the Lex Luthor-ish character of the Black Hammer universe, Sherlock Frankenstein. So she gets on a bus and goes to an asylum where the supervillains are all kept. Spiral Asylum for the Criminally Insane. And we get, like, the backstory of what exactly Sherlock Frankenstein is. Sherlock Frankenstein, scourge of the superheroes for as long as anyone can remember. Very little is known about his origins, but there are reports matching his description and MO going way back to the first half of the early 19th century in London. Whether or not this is actually the same man may seem doubtful, but then again, he is some sort of zombie or undead ghoul or something, so... What we do know is that Sherlock was attacking Spiral City and its heroes, especially Golden Gale and the Golden Family, as far back as the 1940s. In the early 70s, he went legit, or at least on paper he did. He started Frankenlock worldwide and used his genius to invent and supply weapons to the U.S. military-industrial complex for decades. But it was all a front. Behind the scenes, he was as bad as ever and went up against my dad and other heroes a number of times right through the 80s. Say what you want about him, he is without a doubt one of the smartest men, if you can still call him that, in the world. So there's no better place to start looking for clues about where my dad and the other heroes went than to question Sherlock Frankenstein. I mean, it's a cool villain design. And I love that backstory. Like, just 2 pages of exposition there, we get a great backstory for a villain, and I really like that. So I love that the asylum is actually the supervillain prison of this universe is taken care of by actual superheroes, retired, but still. I think that's really clever. Just I don't know why that's something that's not done more. You know, Jeff Lemire makes a pretty good point here. Like, why don't we have more superhero characters taking care of the villains as opposed to random Joe Schmo guards? And the true answer is because, well, we need the villains to be able to escape, and we don't want to make some of the superheroes look completely incompetent. Totally fair. But, like, in continuity, like, this obviously has its own thing where it doesn't need the heroes, the villains to escape to generate more stories. So this has this, like, other alternate option wherein, you know, like, okay, so there aren't really superheroes anymore, so the villains, like, need to escape has kind of died down. They're not feeding off of each other anymore. And now we just need a place to keep the villains. And so we have this asylum that's actually, you know, run by some retired superheroes. And, like, here's the warden, Warden Wing, and he actually has wings. I love this little panel up here, where she's meeting with him, and you can see, like, an x-ray of their bodies. And so you see her skeleton, you see the wings on his skeleton. God, it's so confusing because this is inverted. You can see the wings of his skeleton right there, or the skeleton of his wings right there. It's really neat. This is a nice attention to detail little touch there. So he was like the Hawkman of the JSA in this continuity, which is neat. Anyway, so she goes to talk to a former inmate who used to work with Sherlock Frankenstein, but was also a villain in their own right. Nice little sequence of going down. You know, the way this page works is it takes you from here, across, down, over, and then it gets a little confusing here. I don't think they quite knew what they were doing, but like ultimately you do go all the way across the page like this, back up, and then down the page like that before you get to the turn. So it's just a neat little thing to play with your eye. As she goes to talk to Mectoplasm, this villain that Sherlock Frankenstein created, and that hates Sherlock Frankenstein because it was a child who was murdered and resurrected in this gigantic mechanical body. And so it hates Sherlock Frankenstein. She goes to ask him questions about Sherlock Frankenstein and ultimately gets nowhere with it. And then on her way out, she talks to another villain who says, on the day that all the superheroes disappeared, he saw Sherlock walking right toward Anti-God and the superheroes in a big mech robot thingy. It looks very steampunk. It's like 50s sci-fi meets steampunk in this really interesting way. I like that. It's cool. Anyway, so it saw this, big mechanical monstrosity with Sherlock Frankenstein in it going towards Anti-God in the fight, and then they all disappeared in the same flash. So maybe Sherlock Frankenstein is in the same town that everybody else is in the main Black Hammer title. We shall definitely see. What can I talk about with the art in this? I'm a little mixed on the art here. I think it looks pretty good most of the time, but then there are scenes where it gets I really don't like it when artists get too minimalist just because a character's at distance. I talked about that a lot with the Paper Cut Zorro series, but that is something that just bothers me often. And so, it's not as bad here, because they actually still draw the details on the faces, but, just at a certain point, I feel like you can't get away with stuff like this as much. This panel in particular, or this 2-page spread, I get that, we're supposed to be impressed with the size of this guy, but look at her. Look at her face. It's just 2 dots, There's not a lot of detail put into the face there, and that's disappointing. When you got a head like that, not that hard, it's a big head. So you can add, a lot of detail. I can add wrinkles in the face, I can add hair coming out here, I can do all kinds of stuff. It's starting to look like a woman. Give it a mustache. There we go. I can add all kinds of detail. Now say I want to draw the exact same character, but kind of far away and such. Now I got his body in there, alright? But I can't necessarily do as much with the face if I still want him to look, somewhat intelligible without it just looking like a mess. So I got to get real close to the camera for you to be able to see all the detail and look at it and say, yeah, that's the same guy. So I understand the need to reduce detail, but she goes from having, let's look at a close-up page of her and look up at another panel. I think this is one of the closest looks we get at her. So she goes from having eyebrows, brown eyes, reddish lips, stuff like that, to having no discernible eyebrows. Damn it, come on, focus. No discernible eyebrows, right? Okay, yeah, you can still kind of see the eyebrows in there, though it's definitely difficult, especially with the way I'm holding the comic. just the dot eyes, the coloring on the lips gets a little lost in the distance of the detail. You know, it's just, she doesn't look the same at all. Especially the biggest change, of course, going from eyes with, you know, whites of the eyes, irises, to dots. And I just generally, I don't like that kind of thing. And it's not like it's just... here's a really, really weird example where we get this really up-close panel of her face. And then we get the next panel, which is really pretty close still. And she's got little tiny eyes. That is not a trick I like. It's too cartoony. And then this panel up here does it really bad. Look, we go from a close-up on her in this panel where we can see her eyes and everything to only a slightly distant shot in the next one, and she's got the dots again. I really, really dislike that. That's too much. I don't like losing detail like that. It doesn't have to be, you know, you don't have to draw the iris and eyelashes every single time, but just, I don't like going from has rounded eyes with whites of the eyes to dots. You know, pick one, preferably with white eyes. I don't like dot-eyed characters. It makes them look like dolls. Nice cross-hatching on shading on this bad guy here. Really intricately done. I like it. Yeah, I think that's good. Alright, let's go ahead and move on. Still got a lot of books to go through, guys. Super Sons, number 9. Planet of the Apes, A World at War. Again, Tomasi just has a lot of fun writing these two. Like, I really, really like the way that he writes boys. He really, really gets something here. And, you know, in particular, Damien and John's relationship is just really fun. So, like, they're fighting off all these, you know, fake clay, made of clay bad guys that this living planet is sending at them. And, you know, Robin and Superboy are, you know, beating them away one by one, and we get this cool dynamic action pose, and it's like, John goes, "What have you got to say now, Mr. Evil Living Planet? You're no match." And Damien cuts in, "For Robin!" And Superboy. I just really like it. It's lettered perfectly. Like, John's got this great speech moment, and then Robin just comes in. He's like, "For Robin!" Also Superboy. It's great. And then, like, immediately, the planet's gonna take these other two characters that they've been hanging out with, and Damien's talking all tough. It's like, "Oh, we'll stop you. We'll never let you take them." And then John's like, "Okay, we give up. Don't hurt them." What does Robin do? He spends the next couple pages bickering at John for making that decision. Anyway, John and everybody, John, Damien, the two girls, meet down in the bottom with Kralow, the wizard that, like, is the bad guy that started up this whole thing, and he realizes that he was duped by his future self and is now a puppet of the living planet. And they're trying to decide on a plan, what to do, and Damien's like, "Well, if neither of them are real, then that gives us options, because it lowers the number of actual people we need to worry about here." And John's like, "Wait a sec. Even if everything he said is true, that doesn't change a thing. You helped us when we needed it, and you're here, ready to put your lives on the line. My mom taught me that while I might have a hard time describing just what a hero is, I'll know it when I see it, and I sure as heck see it in you." Then they're all, like, deciding what to do, and I love the way that Damien is written against John here. And so they're like, what do we do, John? What do we do? And he goes, you do what every hero does. The best you can. And Damian just cuts in and is like, geez, you sound like your dad. Thanks, I'll take that as a compliment. Like, I love that. It's just this little biting undercuts. Damian's a terrible friend, but he's hilarious to read. Anyway, so the planet shows up, and the wizard guy seems to be betraying everyone, deciding not to fight with them, kind of taking... Basically, he offers himself as a Silver Surfer style role. And so the planet is temporarily, for like, you know, a conceptually long amount of time, but still temporarily subdued and unable to reform its conscious. And so the boys go home, and this wizard guy plans to make clay people on the planet to fight this monster when it awakens again, whenever that might be. And so I guess we just created a little time loop there, wherein, you know, the continuity of this was that the guy saw his older self, was given the power to create clay people, and used that power in an attempt to take down the Justice League. Really didn't even get past the Teen Titans. Was then brought, due to Damian and John's kind of foolishness, was taken to this alternate dimension or whatever in the future, where there are a bunch of people living on this sentient planet. I don't know, is it a loop or is it just repeating itself? That's weird. Because the people on the planet already knew about Krakow, and now they're rebuilding the forces that Krakow gave them originally. That's weird. It's hard to really piece together how this all fits. Anyway, Damian and John make it back to Earth, and they tell Superman all about their adventure, and Superman makes them breakfast as they do, and says, okay, well, I've got to go deal with an earthquake in Colombia. You two take care of the dishes. And Damian's like, I don't do dishes. You do here, son. Oh, that's too good. That is too good. I love the way that Superman is not having any of Damian's shit. Superman's pouring himself coffee. Can I get a cup of coffee too, Super Dad? Stunts your growth. John says you need all the help you can get. Damn! Superman laying the smackdown on Damian's candy ass. Anyway. So yeah, pretty good issue. Anything I can talk about with the art in here? Talked about last issue, the way they used her the one character's afro for paneling. That was really cool. So I'm not seeing the eye problem so much here. Like, you know, these characters are way off in the background, and they don't show the whites of their eyes, but if you really, really look at it intensely, you can see the shape of an iris as opposed to a dot. Or they have their eyes closed. So that's just, it's just good work, I think, since I was being really critical of the other book for that. Just something I noticed, but I'm not noticing it here as much. What else can I talk about with the art in this? They are really pushing the shit out of Dark Knight's Metal. Damn. I'm not noticing anything about the art. I think John and Damian look maybe a little too old from time to time. Like, I don't know, they strike me as like 15 to 16. Whereas in the other issues, like, John's 10, Damian's 13, so I don't know. You could chalk it up to the angle. I just didn't think that was a particularly good angle on him. Like, here they look the right age. That works. Just didn't in that earlier one. Kuma Ranger says, look, you have to deal with your father. I have to deal with your father on a daily basis. I have none of it here. None. It's pretty good. Yeah. Superman probably waits for that opportunity to lay the smack down on Batman, but never gets the chance. So it's like, oh, got a little mini Batman here. I got this. Anyway, let's go ahead and go on to the next issue. Don't really have much to talk about with the art in that one. 1, 2, 3, 4 more books in a trade to talk about. 8:30. We're getting there. Trinity, number 14. I'm going to let this arc finish. But you know how I talked about how I really want this book to have an A-team, which is Manipal, writing and drawing it himself, and a B-team, which is some other fucks doing it. Kinda just want to get the A-team book. Like, I would totally be cool if we just got straight Manipal and it was nothing but, just good quality, even if it wasn't a consistently monthly book. I'd be fine with that. I might be the only one, but I would be fine with that. This just... it's certainly not bad, but, the thing that was cool about it is now a ruse. And I just don't. I feel like it undercuts itself. The idea of using magic to create a Trinity of Trinities, the villains working together and the heroes working against them and having to deal with that. Okay, cool. Yeah, sure. Then throwing Zatanna, Constantine, and Deadman into it was like, kind of breaking that. And then here they more or less admit, okay, there is no Trinity of Trinities. The big spoiler for this issue, the whole thing was just Cersei's plan to try to get her soul back. So she's manipulating everyone, and she thinks that if she can get the Trinity and sacrifice them, she'll have enough power to enter the region of hell she needs to get her soul back. I just find that very underwhelming, the one thing I found really interesting about your story, which is setting up a Trinity of Trinities, that never even happened because Lex Luthor said, fuck it, one issue in. I don't know, I really lose interest in this. It's a fun enough premise, but it's not even willing to commit to the premise, Then there's stuff where Batman just isn't really acting like Batman. Like, you got Wonder Woman fighting Deadman-possessed Superman and Bizarro. And, I will admit, this is a cool moment. Deadman-possessed Superman says, yes, I have Superman, you have Wonder Woman, the two most powerful of the Trinity. And you just hear Batman say, really? You don't have me. That's a cool moment. As a Bat fan, I really like that. So Batman discusses that, we need to find a way to get Deadman unpossessed and get all of these guys unpossessed. And Wonder Woman's like, well, you got a plan. And Batman says, this is magic. I need this magic. Magic isn't my forte. And Wonder Woman goes, if it's your IQ against magic, I know where my money is. Batman's reaction is, I need science. The Batcave. I need someone to examine. She says, use Red Hood. You can't take on Cal, Deadman, and Bizarro. The demons will attack the city, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, go. Gotham is under my protection. And she, takes her sword and draws a line in the concrete and is like, you see this line? You see this line, demons? It is a line that you will not cross. so swears Diana of Themyscira. And, like, it's cool. It looks fun and all. I'm just not particularly interested. Like, it's... Not sticking with your own premise is just a problem, is a problem, is a problem. I feel like the rules change every issue. And I just can't get invested in that. The art in here is really good, though. Like, this Batmobile looks gorgeous. So, like, I could imagine having more fun with this issue, or with this arc, but I'm just really not interested in the story that they're trying to tell. I'll read more... I might pick some more stuff up by the artist, though. Like, I really like the artist working on this. I just can't seem to, get a break on, consistent story here. Marion is the artist. I don't know what else he's done, but, like, it looks good. There's some really neat stuff. Like, I talked about this, last time. Superman is possessed right now, and so the S is just, like, this big mouth with, like, this long-ass tongue. That's really cool. Like, there's some neat design choices. The Batmobile has a really sleek, cool design. Like, it has that damn near perfect match between Batman 89 and the what is it? The like more armored tank style. Like, it's right up there with the BVS Batmobile, which I really liked. Not the whole it killing people thing, but it did look like a cool ass ride. Anyway, we get a Wonder Woman Superman fight. That's kind of cool. Zatanna gets fucking stabbed, which I'm not okay with. I don't know. Here's a better couple panels to give a look at the mouth symbol for the Superman. That's kind of neat. Yeah, it's just all for Cersei to get her soul back, and Batman's the only one who's not been captured now, and seems to have some kind of method to maybe kill or cure, get rid of the demons. Batman says, "I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill all of you." That's very meme-worthy, if nothing else. I could... Seriously, it's just two panels. It's just Batman saying, "I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill all of you." You could put literally anything at the other end of that. You could do, like, the one panel, and then the long panel, and then whatever you want to put. That's a pretty good meme. Oh, that's too funny. I might have to do that. That might be the best thing this issue gave us. I think that is primo out of context Batman meme worthy right there. Otherwise, I don't know. The art's definitely the highlight here. But the story's pretty lacking, so I don't know if I'm gonna talk to my comic shop guy and see if maybe I can get my pull list adjusted for this book to just, like, only get the issues that Manipal's involved in. I don't know. We'll see. Everyone's talking about Batman killing people. I'm pretty sure he's talking about the demons. I'm not exactly sure to what extent he's going to kill them, but I like the meminess of that. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill all of you. Alright. Let's go ahead and move on to Venom number 156. As I said at the beginning of this episode, I can't believe I've been reading since Venom number 1. Go me. Venom has been monitoring a community of human beings who were transformed into dinosaur-like creatures as a result of an experiment at Alchemex. The transformations have altered the dinosaur people's behavior, and they have become primal and violent. Why? Why is Mike Costa obsessed with dinosaur people? It's not working. And I swear to God, if we keep going back to dinosaur people, I'm dropping this book. Like, here's the problem with it. Venom #1 was good because of the whole pitch that Mike Costa had that he put in the back. You look at Venom, and there's just something about that guy that just says, he's not nice. He's a villain. What's at the top of this book? You can't read it because it's white and my light hits it. Venom, Lethal Protector. Why, though? Just one question. Why? Though. Alright. So anyway, Kraven's hunting the dinosaur people. One of them goes to Eddie to ask for help. So Eddie agrees to help the dinosaur people. Can we just acknowledge how stupid that sentence is? Eddie agrees to help the dinosaur people. And while in the sewers, he runs into Kraven, who's trying to hunt the dinosaur people. And they fight. And for one reason or another, Kraven's tools are able to break through the symbiote. And, like, we even get, like, this just very blatant, like, moment of, this doesn't make sense in continuity. Shut up! Like, Venom gets caught in a bear trap and shit. Like, he jumps at Kraven. Kraven pulls out his rifle and shoots Venom in the shoulder. And so he's able to break the gun and run away. And you just hear this little internal conversation between Eddie and the symbiote. What the hell? I thought you were bulletproof. Big bullet, Eddie. Skin is tough, but not impenetrable. Then why'd the knife go through? Why'd the bear trap go through? Can't the Venom symbiote sense danger coming and, like, adjust itself to be denser in places that are about to be attacked? Coon Ranger says, does Kraven have a vibroblade? I don't believe so. I think it's just like a normal knife from the look of it. Nothing about it looks that special beyond just, you know, big ass knife. Maybe that's just me. It's not glowing or anything like that. So that's just kind of stupid. And then there's, again, the underlying fact that there are conversations, plural, conversations with dinosaur people. Why are we doing this? Art's pretty good. Venom in the crosshairs is a cool picture. You know, it's a cool image. I don't know, guys. Like, again, if we're not even talking... We're not talking story or consequences. Like, that's kind of a cool image. Venom ripping a bear trap off of his leg. Kind of neat, I guess. I don't know. What is it that... Okay, so Kraven has this exchange where he's like, you are like the spider, fast and strong, but impulsive and not nearly as smart, as he lures Venom into a trap. Venom has spider sense. Why does that work? That's a stupid plot point. And, like, normally I wouldn't care about nitpicky stuff like that. You know, what needs to happen for the sake of the story, fine, but, like, why are we dealing with dinosaur people left and right? So Eddie's really badly injured and kind of passes out on his feet. So the symbiote takes over and tries to get him help and goes to the doctors that are taking care of Eddie and Venom. And I don't know, this, again, it's a cool image. I just not very invested right now, so I'm getting annoyed with things. I really do not believe it's this hard to write a good Venom story. I really, really don't. But apparently it is. How's everyone doing in the comments? Good? Better than me reading Venom? I certainly hope so. Let's go ahead and move on to Batman number 33. Always love me some Tom King. No, actually I don't. I don't love Tom King. I hate Tom King. Tom King has this annoying knack of always making me sad as shit reading the stories. You know, he did it with Kite Man, he did it with Gotham and Gotham Girl. He has this knack for just breaking your damn heart into a million pieces. But normally he sets it up for a few issues. He gives you some time to get to know and care about the characters and get really invested. And then he rips your heart out and stomps it on the ground. In this issue, the first page is Batman and Selina deciding, oh, this horse we've been riding through the desert is now too dehydrated to keep going on. Oh well. Just shoots the horse. Just 2 pages, and you're immediately like, ah, my heart just murdered a horse. And it's so nonchalant. It's just like, Batman hands her the rifle. Here, Catwoman. She was a good horse. Batman. Yeah. Catwoman. She deserved better. Yeah. Bang! I don't know anything about that horse. That's just a sad way to open a book. So anyway, they're in the desert, heading somewhere. And we cut to the boys hanging out at the house. Jason is fighting with Ace. I still don't like Jason just being buddy-buddy with the Bat family. But when he's written like this, I don't mind it. It's, you know, he's written well. It's just, it's a principle thing, I guess. So anyway, he's fighting with Ace, and there's a whole joke about how Ace doesn't listen to him, which is, you know, cool. Batman goes to, the Tiger King. I don't know who that is. Was this a character set up in, like, Grayson, Agent of Spiral or something like that? Because they mentioned Dick Grayson by name here, and I know Tom King wrote that book, so maybe this is a character set up there. I don't think I've heard of the Tiger King, though. Unaware, at least. So anyways, Batman says that he needs Tiger King to get he and Catwoman to Khadym? Khadym? And he takes the job and takes him there. Meanwhile, back at the house, he tells the boys that Bruce has been keeping a secret from them, and now it's time to let them know. Kuma Ranger says that Tiger King is from the Grayson book, thanks. Master Wayne, he doesn't want me to tell you this, but I've judged it important for you to assess his current state of... Well, it is Master Wayne. And then Dick cuts in, let me guess. He's been keeping another deep, dark secret from everyone, Thomas. All his friends and colleagues who trusted him, Jason. And now that secret threatens to destroy everyone and everything. Damien, obviously. And then Alfred just says, Master Wayne proposed to Miss Kyle. She has accepted. And I just love the reaction here. What the hell did you just say? I love, like, look at Ace. Look at Ace, he's doing the thing. Oh, it's great. Oh. What the hell did you just say? So they're all wondering why the hell he proposed to Catwoman. Damn. What's up with my books right now? All my books are got creases in them and stuff. I don't think that's for me. Catwoman and Batman come across this big tough guy, and they're informed that heroes, villains, everybody's agreed to stay out of this, you know, vague Middle Eastern country in which war is the norm. So Syria, Iraq, one of them. And there's this big bodyguard guy who's like, you agreed to it. He agreed not to be here. He helped sign the rules. Blah blah blah. And so he's not going to let them through. And Batman's like, or Catwoman says like, Cat, please. All right, but be nice. I'm always nice. And then we just get like this great little cut of him bloodied and beaten on the floor, and then they walk in the cave. In between that's another scene with Alfred and the boys. I would read a book called Alfred and the Boys. Would anyone else read that? I would so read a book called Alfred and the Boys, where it's just Alfred in the cave helping the various members of the Bat family. So they're all arguing about like what to do about the, you know, Batman proposing to Catwoman thing. and Damien cries because of it, which is, like, shocking. Anyway, so we get to this cave or something like that to enter this country, maybe, I don't know. And then we cut to Talia al Ghul. Let me read this, because I really like the way that she's introduced. Because Damien knows what Batman is doing. Like, he's going to this country. Cadium is... That's where she's hiding. What? Where who's hiding? Talia al Ghul. The daughter of the demon. My mother. And we just see Talia very odd. Like, this is a great amount of information given to us with very little. Just in the art. So we've got all these people sleeping, you know, in this big pile and Talia at the foot of it. So she's obviously sleeping with, you know, the fact that a bunch of them are naked. She is obviously sleeping with her own personal harem. She's having, like, her own personal orgy. It's very luxurious looking. Look at all the pillows. Look at the drapes around the bed. So it's like, it's gives immediately this implication of lavish luxury, over the top. And then there's the fact that, you know, she's addressed as ma'am. And she says, "We've just received word. The Batman has arrived in Kaedim." Wait, what? I think this might be a... not letterer. Yeah, I guess it's the letter... Is it the letterer that puts the word balloons in? There's a debate as to whether or not these are corpses. I'm pretty sure the implication is that she has slept with all these people. Okay, so, like, this line right here, I don't know, I'm pretty sure this word balloon is supposed to be coming from off-panel. I think this might be an error. Because it goes, "Ma'am, we've just received word the Batman has arrived in Kaedim," but the way it's pointed, it's like it's coming to her. And the way I read it is, I read it as if it's supposed to be coming from off-panel, particularly with the way she reacts, because she, like, she goes from brushing her hair, and then she looks up after that information is said, and then she goes back to brushing her hair and says, "I see. Please prepare my swords." So, like, I'm pretty sure that's an error, because that doesn't read right if she says it, because, yeah, that's got to be an error. That doesn't make any sense. So, I don't know, there's a great deal of information past there, like, you know, look at the dress she's wearing with, like, this, you know, very lavish jewelry. She's brushing her hair. She's obviously living, like, in the lap of luxury, excess kind of lifestyle. And yet, like, and she's got servants because she can say, "Oh, bring me my swords," that kind of thing. So it's interesting. Joelle Jones did the art on this issue, and he communicates a lot. Like, you know, it's a really cool vista. I like the way the costumes are drawn here. I mean, it's kind of hard to look at this version of Batman and not go with the Nightmare Batman from BVS. There's no denying that it's got a very, very similar look to it. Even down to the shorter-eared cowl. I mean, the coat over the... Akuma Ranger says, "Is there a giant snake in that orgy?" No giant snake, sorry. It's not Alexander the Great's mother. That was a history joke. Yeah, but, like, I like the look of that. It's also neat to see Catwoman's, you know, similar garb where she's just got the cowl on and, like, you know, it's desert gear Catwoman Barbie. So I don't know, it looks good. It's, you know, practical looking, kind of smart, kind of cool. apparently the dog, the pictures of Ace are based on pictures of Tom King's dog, which is kind of fun. Fun little detail there. Yeah, solid art in this. Nothing that like really jumps out to me, though. Not sure what else I could talk about with this issue. Strong opener to the rules of engagement. So, there you go. Oof. A little uncomfortable. Alright, last single issue of the week. DC Comics Bombshells United, number 4. So, spoilers. I think Wonder Woman might be dead. Which is disappointing. Like, I like what they're doing here, but I really hope that Wonder Woman's not dead. You know, it's comic books, anyone can come back, but Margaret Bennett hasn't brought anyone back from the dead yet in Bombshells. Courtney's stayed dead. Yeah, none of the characters that have died, especially none of the heroes themselves, have come back yet. So anyway, they're able to defeat Clayface because he absorbed the silver dust from the area by morphing into his clay form and all this stuff. And they're able to direct lightning at him using Wonder Woman's, you know, gifts from the gods and all that stuff. And in defeating him, they decide that that Wonder Woman isn't dead, that she still lives on in them. Like, I really like this line. Diana isn't dead, she isn't gone. Emily, where is she then? She's right here. She's skinny and 16, and she's standing right here up to her ankles in mud, and she'll never give up. Do you see now? You feel sorry because you hurt the thing you wanted, but hurting us was just fine, right? You better thank your lucky stars that Diana is still here, still in me, still in us. Because if she wasn't, they get her legend wrong. She isn't the Wonder Woman because she wiped her enemies off the map. She doesn't have any more enemies because she turns them into friends. I don't know how to make you believe that you should care about other people. Margaret Bennett, always with the great points. And to be fair, that is almost word for word aping something I've read people spreading around. And yeah, it is like this frustrating feeling, like when someone is sitting there talking about, like, oh, we need to cut this, or, you know, I don't give a shit about this group, why should I care that, like, bad things are happening in the world? It's like, I don't know how to explain to you that you should care about other people. It is the most frustrating feeling, and this kind of perfectly encapsulates it. You have Basil Carlo, who had this idea of what Wonder Woman was and how she was his hero, but her turning on the American government when it did something wrong meant that she was a traitor, not that the American government was wrong. And for this character, for Emily to just be like, no, you need to care about others even when you think you've got something against them. It's not about defeating and beating down the other. It's about getting them to care about you. And I really like that. It's a great point. So they use the magic that was used on Paula Van Guntra, who was a villain in the first volume of Bombshells. They use it on Basil Carlo. And he gets to see two versions of his life. And I really like how this is laid out panel-wise, because we have Basil Carlo over here, and then we have Clayface over here. And so on this side, we get the upstanding man that Basil Carlo could have been. You know, he sees Asian man in a diner, and he goes, and there's this guy saying, look at him, they call that critter an American when he's, and Basil sees the version himself that could have said, come on, don't talk like that, pal. The man's been in this country longer than either of us have. And then, like, we see two guys harassing two Asian women, and he's like, get out of here, go on. And he's like, looks to the women, are you okay? Did those guys do anything? You need me to call anybody? You know, just standing up for people. He's given an order by a general to do something unethical. And he says, I cannot betray my country by partaking of an extra military operation that intends this kind of harm, sir. And then he got to see Wonder Woman's message. Wonder Woman saves straggling soldiers on the sand shores of the stormy sea. And then that's the man he could have been. Here's the man he was. The monster Clayface. Sees a guy complaining about an Asian American. He goes, what do you say, pal? Shall we help out Uncle Sam carry out the trash? Sees a bunch of guys shit-talking some Asian women, just smiles and keeps on walking. He's given an order by his general. Do you understand where you're to go and the minerals we need to bring our back for the boys? Sir, yes, sir. Sees Wonder Woman on film and is like, me and you one day, dollface. Me and you. So he's just obsessed with himself in this version. He's bigoted and a bad person, and he just gets to see these alternate versions of what he could have been like. And it's that makes him understand. It's that makes him understand and change his ways and start to care about people. So the clay, the magic that it's magic. I don't know. He's able to take the silver from the earth, mold it around himself, mold it to the girls, and enchant them so that they can be Wonder Girls. And you have Clayface being this big, no longer clay. He's made of silver. And so they go high above Los Angeles and sprinkle the stardust down upon the people so that they, too, can see the mistakes they made and have the same kind of experience Basil Carlo did and see everything that they should have done, could have done, would have done differently. I really like this sequence of panels. That looks great. As they all just realize what they didn't do, what they let happen to Japanese Americans in World War II. It's a really, really great moment. And the Wonder Girls show up and tell them, my friends, my neighbors, my fellow Americans, the vision you received, it was because of us. A ripple of stardust, of magic to let you see another timeline, to see the choices you could have made and could make again, to see the second chances you could have to rewrite your story. But just as they're telling the people, the general shows up with his own group of Clayfaces, the Mud Pack. So I really like the way that this story is structured because it provides what should always be there, which is the opportunity for redemption, the opportunity for forgiveness. And it also doesn't let the American government off the hook. I like that the American government is just as much at fault for what it did wrong as the Nazis are for what they did wrong, as the Soviets are for what they did wrong. The fact that we have an LGBT writer writing a period era piece with tons of LGBT characters really lets her talk about the greatest generation in a nuanced way, because we like to sugarcoat and try to just nostalgically look back on 40s America as if it was the greatest America has ever been, when it clearly had its huge host of problems, and the internment of Japanese American citizens is a great example of that. So, using that era, using those lenses to look back and see, America was a repressive country, and in many ways remains so to this day. We can't act like this didn't happen, but that doesn't mean that you can't do anything about it. And I really, really like that. It's a fantastic message. So there's always the opportunity for redemption. There's always the opportunity for forgiveness. But the very key, very particular thing that people don't get is that redemption, forgiveness almost universally require drastic change of circumstances. Let's take like Bill O'Reilly, for example. Bill O'Reilly has said and done a lot of awful things in support of, a lot of kind of disgusting viewpoints in my mind, at least. You can agree with him on some things, I'm sure, but I think just across the board, he has served to empower a dangerous point of view. Bill O'Reilly, through some magical circumstances, realizes the error of his ways and wants to repent for that. That's fine. But part of that would be either ending your broadcasts of this hateful message, period, by stopping broadcasting, or to try to use that platform you've built for yourself to make people realize you were wrong. It's this idea of, I've changed my ways, I've come around on this. Well, if you're still living the same life that you were before, if you're still doing all the same things, I don't think you have. I think you're bullshitting us. So that's, it's just a interesting point, interesting thing to dwell on. Anything to say about the art? I mean, it looks good. I like the second artist here more than the first artist this time around. No, the second artist just gets a lot of double page spreads to work with and stuff like that. Like, this is a cool image. I know Margaret Bennett's a big fantasy fan. She really likes the Lord of the Rings movies, so I'm getting a bit of giant eagles moment right there. That's pretty funny. At least they're not riding them to a volcano. Again, I'm more impressed with the way the panels are laid out here than the art itself. I think the characters and everything, it looks fine. I like the way it's being paneled and structured here. I think it looks really good. Nice lighting. A lot done with the sun here. Great shadow and lighting. It looks good. I'm a big fan of silhouettes, and this playing around with how silhouettes work, which is cool. Same here. Just good lighting with the sun. I like it. Okay. That's going to do it for Bombshells United, number 4. Excited to read more of that book. I feel like I just talked about it last week, which is surprising. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go on to Trade Talk in just a second here, so I'm going to say goodbye to the comment section. Alright. Welcome to this episode of Trade Talk. This week we're talking about Thor, God of Thunder, the God Butcher. This is Volume 1 of Jason Aaron's Thor run. I remember reading a preview for this back when it was first coming out, the original story. And it's a really interesting premise on principle alone. Thor is a god. The Asgardians are gods on some conceivable level. The MCU treats them like just super advanced aliens, but there's clearly a sense of regal royalty divinity to them in the comics. There's something more than just super powerful aliens. This is actually dealing with the idea of myth and deithood, godhood. That's a better word. As it relates to Thor, and so we have this opening about some frost giants that were killing townfolk's goats, and Thor came in and stopped it, and now he's celebrating with the townfolk and has probably eaten more goats than the frost giant killed and bedded all their women and stuff. This is like the 800 AD era, and they find the head of a dead god that was a god of one of the Indian tribes, and they're not sure what to make of it. And yeah, it's an interesting, ominous, foreboding beginning. Then we cut to the present day, because this story is told in 3 distinct timelines, it's very Nolan-esque. So we got the past, the present day, and the future. Far future, far past, present day. So in the present, Thor is summoned to a world that is very lifeless, and like this little girl, is just praying for water. And she decides to pray to Thor, and Thor shows up. And brings rain and all this stuff to this planet. And then he asks one of the elders, so why didn't she pray to one of your gods? And he's like, we don't have gods. And he's just perplexed as hell by this. So he goes searching, and he finds an Olympus-esque land in their heavens. I guess, like, this is a weird thing. Like, I suppose deities can like, access areas that, like, humans or mortals wouldn't be able to, and that's just kind of a thing we're going with. We're not even really explaining it. Anyways, he finds this place that gods clearly dwell at, but it's abandoned, it's empty, and the only gods he finds have been butchered and killed. And as he's investigating this, he's attacked by some kind of left-behind wraith, shadowy monster thing, guard dog as he calls it, and he has to defeat it. Then we cut to the far future, where we have an old man Thor with the arm of... what do they call that? Is it the... Shit, what's the name of that armor in Thor? The Devastator? Maybe people in my live comments can help me out here. The armor, it's in the first Thor movie that he fights. It's there all the time, but he's got an arm. He's got his own little personal arm from that. That's cool. And he is fighting a horde of these shadow demons. So the next couple issues just evolve as, like, Thor in the past deals with, just kind of running around and with Vikings, and this is his first encounter with this beast that is called the God Killer. He goes to fight more gods, and all he finds are bloodied corpses and this, creepy guy hanging out in the heavens that clearly killed the other deities he went to go do battle with. And he fights him just in the skies above what would one day be called Russia. And he loses quite badly. As the God Butcher is about to strike his final blow, he asks Thor, tell me, what are you the god of? And Thor says thunder, and lightning comes down and breaks the two of them apart, clearly injuring the God Butcher. Then we get an issue in the present where Thor is dealing with trying to find the God Butcher. So he goes to like this library, the Citadel as they call it, where they keep all this information on deities across the Marvel cosmos. Kuma Ranger in the live comments tonight says the armor is called the Destroyer. Thank you. I could not remember that for the life of me. Anyway, Thor goes around through the cosmos trying to find other deities that haven't been heard from for at least 100 years, and just finds a trail of dead bodies along the way. I really like this one. There's just this gigantic husk of a dead god, and like this moment is like, he's been dead for 5 years. Say his mourners, the worshippers who come every day to kneel in his offal and pray for resurrection. Yet nothing stirs within this giant rotting husk. I like that idea of like what happens when like a deity dies and its people don't know what to do. It's really interesting. So anyway, Thor fights and searches for the God Butcher. Then we come back to the far past as Thor recovers from his wounds and ventures forward to go find the God Butcher in a cave somewhere. And this is all intercut with stuff from the future and past as old man Thor fights a bunch of these guard dog things. And present Thor returns to that same cave and finds another deity hiding there that had a run-in with the God Butcher, because that's the last place that he would look for him. Next issue opens up with, more of a focus on future Thor, who we saw fall in battle, and we assume, okay, he's going to die and go to, like, Valhalla or whatever. But no, the guard dogs carry him away back to his throne room and sit him back down on his throne. He's like, no, this isn't... Wait, come back here, you wretched dogs. Come back here and kill me. So they won't even give old Thor the pleasure of dying in battle because of this rivalry that he's had with the God Butcher over these centuries. So he's like the last remaining god of Asgard, and they refuse to kill him. They're just beating him to within an inch of his life and then putting him back on his throne. Meanwhile, in the present, we get more information from this deity that had a run-in with the God Butcher. The God Butcher cut the deity's eyelids off, so he had to watch him kill his entire pantheon. Unfortunate. Back to the past, deal with, Thor getting tortured by the God Butcher. Back to the present, the Citadel is being burnt down by the guard dogs. Back to the future as old Thor tries again to fight for Asgard. And then Thor figures out where the God Butcher has gone to, which is the Palace of Infinity, Chernux, whatever, where he is slain gods of time. The guard dogs are called berserkers. That's cool. So they slay all of the gods of time but one and drain their blood into a pool, which a single drop would allow them to travel through time. And he begins to ascend into the pool when Thor shows up. Oh, wait, what happened? That's a weird transition. Anyways, he's trying to get in the pool. Oh, no, he does get in the pool. Right. Sorry, the back and forth, the jumping around, time jumps makes it hard to remember the exact sequence. So anyways, God Butcher goes back in time to the very beginning of the universe and finds an ancient god and steals its friggin' heart, which is just epic. Also, I love the design of the God Butcher. He looks like a fucking evil Twi'lek, and it's just cool looking. He's got this it's like Voldemort had a hate fuck with a Twi'lek, and that's what we got. Anyway, so he emerges with the heart of a god and has a real hate boner for Thor. And so when Thor confronts him in the palace, or the pantheon of the time gods, he, holds him down and says, "Oh, you'll be the last god I kill." As he walks into the pool again and journeys to the future. So Thor follows him in and journeys to the future as well, where he sees Odin, except not Odin, it's old Thor. And they fight together because he's 900 years late. And the God Butcher has already destroyed Asgard, and Thor is the last remaining god. And that's where it ends. And I don't like that that's where it ends. That's a disappointing ending for a volume like this. I feel like that's not the full story arc. One thing I want to make sure I complain about early on here, after I've summarized the whole story, is this really weird choice. The only thing I can think of is that it's a signature or something. I honestly don't know, but it annoyed the crap out of me. It took me out so much. Once I find it again. Because it felt like it was all over the place, but now I'm not noticing it as I flip through the book. Of course, because that always happens to me. Damn it, don't you hate that? Like, it felt like it was just in the most random places in the book, and that was driving me up the frickin'... Oh, yeah, here we go. Just right at the beginning. A little red box with AR. You just flip through this just randomly throughout the book. Red box, AR. Is it supposed to be an artist's signature? Why is that there? Like, I'm used to artists signing their work, but when they do it, they usually hide it somewhere in the cover or don't make it super frickin' obvious. And then if you're gonna sign your work in the middle of a comic, why? Why would you do... Like, if you're going to do it, at least, hide it somewhere. Don't make... Like, was it a digital signature that he just throws in? That's weird. That is jarring. But anyway, yeah, I don't like that it ends there. Like, with Thor in future Asgard, and, we don't get much of a resolution here. That just doesn't feel like a full story arc. It feels like, okay... Now the fight. And it feels... I don't know what the next trade's going to be, but... I don't know. Picked this up by request, and I did enjoy it. Though again, it feels like I just read the whole mystery for a reveal that, didn't quite... I didn't get the payoff for the... Or I got the payoff for the reveal. I didn't get the catharsis, the lesson learned, the journey completed. I just saw the God Butcher destroy future Asgard. And now Thor needs to fight him with old Thor. I don't know, it's kind of a letdown of an ending. Though it does make me want to read the second volume. Is someone comment for me that's read this, if you have. Does anyone know, does the next volume actually conclude the God Butcher story, or is this going to be a thing where it's, volumes and volumes and volumes into the run before we get back to this, or get a proper conclusion to this? Because that's disappointing. I like the way Thor's characterized here. We definitely do get 3 separate Thors, because we get, We get a very young Thor. We get who's like very brash, very foolhardy in battle, and kind of obsessed with his own legend, his own interests. He doesn't really care about anyone else. Then we get modern Thor, present day Thor, who's like a cool guy who's just trying to do his best to help people. He is a proper hero now, and I like that we distinguish between the two of them, because past Thor doesn't have Mjolnir. He's wielding a battle axe. He doesn't have the power of Mjolnir yet. We get a sequence in which he's shown that he is not able to lift Mjolnir. I really like that. That's a cool moment. And he just as he tries, he looks at it and goes, one day. And that's a really neat little moment to get in there. Is it this issue where we get that look? Yeah. I really like this scene as young Thor tries to lift Mjolnir and he's unable to. And then present day Thor is actually evolved from that. He feels like a real hero, and that's just a really cool thing to do. And then future Thor is the character we get the least of, but he's just clearly, still just trying to fight the good fight, and he's become obsessed in this battle with the God Butcher, even though he's clearly lost and has become a plaything for it. And I really, really like that. That's really interesting. Again, the character design on the God Butcher is really, really cool. This is probably one of the better looks we get out of him. And it's just with the head tentacle things, look at the gnarly claw-like feet. He just looks monstrous. I love it. And his whole thing is he just hates the gods. All gods. He just wants to kill all immortal, all gods across the universe, and that's really, really cool. I like that a lot. It's super neat. Yeah. Nice stuff, man. Art-wise, get some really neat visuals that are just really imaginative. No two locations for these various deities look the same, which I really appreciate from the artist, digital signatures or not, or whatever the fuck that's supposed to be. You got the Citadel, which is this big central location of this, library of the gods kind of thing. And then earlier in that first issue, you get the visual of this abandoned pantheon of this random planet's gods, and that looks just very different. It's really well designed to be just varied and cool looking. Then you get Churrux, the place of infinity, and that looks very different. It's isolated, more minimalist, not as tall and sweeping and everything. I like that. That's just good design work. A lot of violence in this book too. This big full page spread of Thor looks really cool. Though I still feel like that's timed wrong. Because we see old Thor fighting off the hordes, and then we get the page turn and young Thor or present day Thor is there. And Thor hasn't entered the pit yet over here. This is as the God Butcher enters the pit. And then he actually does that twice, though, which is, I don't know, it's just weird to do that. I think it's a tease for the next issue, but that doesn't happen until the end of the next issue. So, I don't know. I think that's weird. Yeah. I don't have a ton to say about it. I mean, it's a fun story. I'm glad I read it. It's definitely an interesting take, an interesting approach to do with Thor. And I like that we're actually embracing the fact that he is a deity. We're not trying to do, oh, he's an alien like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I just... My problem with doing Thor like that is it's not magic, it's science fiction. Well, when you don't clearly pick one, It's like, it's not magic, it's not fantasy, it's science, but it's not science. It's still like this fantastical science. And no, what you did was write bad science fiction and bad fantasy. So I don't care for the Thor movies that much, if you couldn't tell. So I don't know. I like this approach. What I like about it is a story that, requires him to actually be magical, to actually be a deity, and I really, really enjoy that about it. All right. That'll do it for this episode of Trade Talk. Everyone, thank you very much for watching. Bye. And for everyone that came live, thank you very much for watching Comic Reviews. I'll talk to you later. See ya.